Hello, welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. So excited to be with you on this glorious day. How are you all doing today? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good because I've chosen to feel good. I think it's so important for us to recognize that choice is everything. We have the choice to move forward, to move backwards, to stay still, to be all over the place, to relish in distraction, to recognize the power of moving in the direction that we want. It's all about choice. We don't always realize it though. Sometimes, I think often we are moving through our day, moving through our week, moving through each moment, and kind of like my mother used to say, like a horse. Like sometimes when we would go out different places and we would be heading somewhere else and she would end up driving toward home. She said, "Oh, I'm just like an old horse going home because that's where my steps know to guide me." Where are your steps guiding you? Are you like an old horse always heading home, or home sometimes being a good place, but home possibly being the familiar place, the safe place? Or are you making the choice so that your steps are moving in the direction where you want to head? Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the country and in the world. I thank you for joining me. And today we are talking about choice, but what I wrote is that we're talking about focus. And focus has everything to do with choice, because in order to focus, you have to make a choice to do so. Now, focus has so many interesting facets to it. Let's start with, as I was setting up to begin this broadcast, I have an external camera that I put on my computer to make a sharper image. So it was all set up, everything was fine. And then suddenly, literally, the image was out of focus. I had done nothing. I had not moved. I had not touched the computer. I had literally done nothing. And in a blink, the image, my reflected image, was blurry. And so then I held my hand at the camera to kind of take the focus off of me and make it towards something closer. You know how if you ever do broadcast, if in a larger broadcast, you'll see people hold a white card. That also helps to establish the shot. But it just took me a couple of minutes to fiddle with it until the image came back in focus. I do not know why it went out of focus. I'm not a tech person, so I'm sure someone would know right away what the reason was. But I saw that the image was out of focus, and I knew that I did not want to come to you blurry. But isn't that interesting? On a day that I would choose to have us contemplate focus, that literally my image was out of focus for a moment. And so it took a pause. It took time to make a pause and to adjust and to not give up until I came back into focus on the screen. That's what happens with focus. That's what happens with life. Things happen, and we have a choice. We have choices all the time, but the choice to refocus our lens, to recognize that we may have wandered down a blurry lane, to accept sometimes that the path that we have chosen is no longer the right path, that it gets a little unclear, that the road is not the road that we thought we were on. I've mentioned before this book that I read when I think I was in high school, if not high school, college, The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck, one of the very early self-help books. And it was talking about the willingness that we need to have to follow our own path, that may not be the path already set up by someone else, but the road less traveled, the road that is our road, that is our path, that leads us into the direction that will fulfill our needs. That sometimes means that as you're going down a path, there's a dead end, or there are choices as you go down a path, and you have to decide, am I going to continue down whatever this path is? Am I going to take the left or the right path if it is split? Am I going to stay straight when there are other options? What am I going to do? And this requires contemplation. This requires self-evaluation. This requires research sometimes. It requires paying attention in the moment to get a sense of whether we are where we want to be, whether the course that we have set continues to make sense for us, or whether there needs to be a door closed and a pivot to something else, and then walking down a different path. So guess what, you guys? This happens all the time. There are doors all the time. There are paths all the time. And some of these things are simple, and some of them are very significant. Some of them may not seem that relevant to your daily life. Some of them may seem very consequential. But I want to point out to you that all of them are important. Every choice you make is important. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of things that just happened to me that bring to life what I'm talking about. So something relatively simple. I was on a call for a meeting for an organization that I'm part of its leadership. And it was a weekend call, very long call. And I wasn't feeling so well, but I was in the meeting, focused, committed to being present, even though, honestly, I wanted to take a nap. But I had committed to being in the meeting, and so I did my best to stay alert throughout the whole meeting and to contribute and of course it was a Zoom meeting, as we are all part of these days, a video conferencing meeting. And I contributed whenever it was appropriate, which, by the way, wasn't the easiest thing to do because I was a little under the weather. But I had committed to doing it, so I kept re-upping my energy so that I would stay able to be engaged. The meeting's over, thank goodness. I had a moment to rest, and I got a call from one of the members of the organization who is my friend. And she wanted to talk about things that had gone well and things that had not gone well, and, to do a debrief about the meeting. And what often happens, not just with her, but just, I think you will have had this experience, after extremely long events or intense events, people want to download debrief, and it can often spiral into a bit of frustration and intense energy. And I didn't have the ability to hold that energy. It isn't because I don't care for her. She's my friend. I had used every ounce of energy that I had to fulfill the commitment that I'd made to participate in that meeting. And then there wasn't anything left. Now, in that moment, there was a choice. And there are lots of questions about the choice. This is my friend. She really wants to talk. She needs to download. She needs to have this moment. I care about her. I want to support her. And then there's me. I wasn't feeling good. I needed to be quiet. I needed to turn my brain off for a minute. I needed to be still. And so I had to tell her, I'm so sorry, but I cannot talk to you right now. I am exhausted and I don't feel so good, and I have to get off the phone. And I had to tell her twice because, as we know, when you're fired up and you've got something you want to talk about, you can't always hear when another person is telling you something different. No indictment of her. The issue was about me and my focus. And in this case, I had chosen to give a certain amount of time to one thing, and the pivot from there had to be focusing on my well-being and a restorative focus, to be still, to be quiet, and to rest. Why did I tell that story? Because it is an example of something simple that you may not think about. When we do these broadcasts, I wonder sometimes if people are just thinking big picture. What is the big thing that I want to do in my life? And how can Harriet's Dreamleapers inspiration help me to get there? And I do want you to think about that. But also, I want you to recognize in daily life, in the things that we are working on and moving through and considering every day, this work that we're doing together through Dreamleapers Inspiration is designed to help you think in that moment. Am I supporting myself? Am I headed in the right direction? Am I doing for myself what is going to help me to be the best that I can be? Am I applying the things that we discuss in a way that can support my daily life? And I say this because it is in daily interaction that all of this matters. It is in daily contemplation that this work matters. It is not just the big things. How do you get to the big things? How do you fulfill the big things? Through the little things. Through each little step that you take in your day. That's how you are able to manifest those big ideas and goals. You can be so easily sidetracked if you're only thinking, well, all this counts when I am working on that giant goal. All this counts when I've decided I'm going to focus on it, whatever it is. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. Every little step counts. That's why I encourage us to write things down. You write down the big goal, you break it down into its smallest components that you can execute and check off and say, yes, I accomplished that. That's focus. I accomplished step 1. Check. Now I go to step 2. When I accomplish that, I check it off. Because why? It inspires me, it inspires you to move on to the next. I have accomplished something. We as human beings need to feel that we are accomplishing things, that we are reaching goals, that we are being successful. And the human ego is so fragile that if we get sidetracked or don't accomplish something or something bad happens, we can wilt like a wilted flower and feel like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back up, water that flower, be able to spruce myself up and move forward. But we can. It is about focus. Now, let me tell you, I found so many great quotes about focus. I mean, this is one, wow. So look at this. I found many great quotes about focus. I'm going to share, I think I'm just going to share one of them with you because this one is really meaty and I think it'll help. It's from Jack Canfield, a wonderful thinker and motivational person. He says, successful people maintain a positive focus in life, no matter what is going on around them. They stay focused on their past successes rather than their past failures, and on the next action steps they need to take to get them closer to the fulfillment of their goals, rather than all the other distractions that life presents to them. Now, that was a lot. I'm going to read it to you again. Listen carefully. This is from Jack Canfield. Successful people maintain a positive focus in life no matter what is going on around them. They stay focused on their past successes rather than their past failures, and on the next action steps they need to take to get them closer to the fulfillment of their goals, rather than all the other distractions that life presents to them. This is a profound thought, because back to that fragility of human beings, think about it. If you do something that you feel really good about, and one person says, I didn't like X about whatever you did, or I didn't like it, I didn't think it was so good. On social media, you post something that you feel really good about, and then someone says writes in social media, ew, who do you think you are? Or I didn't care for that. Did you see so and so that person did? Someone casting doubt upon your capability. If you get 100 positive comments and one negative comment, tell the truth. What do you focus on? Most of us just can't walk away from that negative comment. Most of us sort of stew in the comment and think about what could we have done better. We feel bad that someone has this particular thought about us. Isn't it true? And so Jack Canfield is saying, cut it out. Stop it. Focus on the success. Even if you reverse it and you did something that really was a failure, because he says, focus on the past successes rather than the past failures. So here's something you didn't do well. We all have things we didn't do well. Instead of being cut off at the knees by something we didn't do well, we can learn from that and focus on the positive, focus on things that we did do well. What did you do well in the past day, in the past week, in the past month? What have you done that makes you proud of yourself, that makes you know that you're walking your path? That's what we should focus on. And when those negative things start bubbling up, and they bubble up in interesting times, they bubble up sometimes when we're taking that rest, sometimes in our dreams, sometimes when we're in the middle of a presentation, sometimes when we are feeling good about ourselves, often when we're not. What do we do with that? Do we let that feeling in? Do we let that thought in? Or do we pause and say, I'm shutting that door. I do not need to think about that now. I need to focus on the positive, focus on the good that has occurred in the past and on the good that I'm going to create moving forward. So back to my example of my friend, I left that conversation in such a positive way. I care about you and I can't do this right now. I'm pretty sure she didn't leave the conversation feeling slighted. It was just that we couldn't talk at that moment. We'll talk another time. What can you do? What have you done that takes care of you, that completes and closes a door, completes a moment, closes a door when you need it to, and gives you the freedom to walk your path? You know how they say no is a complete sentence? Use that. Sometimes the answer to something has to be no in order to create space for you to move forward and to be able to have the energy and the awareness and literally space to see, to recognize where you should be headed. If your mind is so cluttered, then you don't have space to focus. And so I want all of us to think very, very carefully about what we can focus on. What can you focus on today? One thing. Don't pick 5 things because that's hard to execute. Pick one thing that you can focus on today and that you believe you can complete. Write it down. What are you going to focus on today that you promise yourself you are going to complete by the end of today? So it's not, I'm going to write a book. It's not, I'm going to run a marathon. It's one nugget that you can complete today. What is it? Write it down. Make the promise to yourself that you're going to complete it, and then take the action to do it. All right, so we only have a few more minutes, but together, let's do a mini meditation that will help us with this. So everybody sit up straight, put your feet flat on the floor, shoulders back, hands on your knees, thumb and forefinger touching. And let's take 3 cleansing breaths together. Close your eyes and breathe in deep. And as you breathe in all the goodness that you can hold. And hold it. And slowly breathe out long and let go any discomfort in your body. Again, breathe in deep. Breathing in light. And hold it. And breathe out long. Breathe out darkness. One more time. Breathe in deep. Breathe in the power that lives within your being and hold it. Gently breathe out long. Breathe out any hesitation you have to step into your power. And now, just breathe naturally. Breathe in and out naturally. Feel your breath as it moves through your body. Breathe deep enough that your body is really taking in your breath, but still it is a natural breath. Some of us breathe very shallowly, but your natural breath should have enough depth to it so that the oxygen goes throughout your being. Just breathe. And as you breathe naturally, ask yourself, what will you focus on today? What positive action can you take today for your life? One thing. What can that one thing be? It may be closing the loop on something that you hadn't completed. It might be paying a bill that you have avoided. It might be calling a loved one who you haven't talked to in quite some time. It may be having a deeper meditation for you to commune with God in your being. It may be writing down what your heart's desire is. It might be completing a task for work that you've put aside. It might be washing the laundry that's been piling up. Whatever it is, notice what comes up for you as you're sitting here in this quiet space, just breathing naturally into your being. What do you need to focus on today? What one thing do you need to focus on today that you can complete in this day? Are you working on your big project and there's one thing that you can complete that will clear the way for the next step? Choose one thing that you can focus on, that you can complete today. Okay, very, very gently open your eyes. How are you feeling? Write down whatever came up for you. I want to tell you how I was feeling, that I could go into a deeper meditation, just 10, 15 more minutes and really go deep. Do you feel like that? If you do, when we close this broadcast, why don't you just sit quietly and go deeper into your meditation and see what you discover in that space. This is your moment of inspiration that helps you to unlock the greatness within. Treasure it. I want to share with you that on January 26th, which for those of you seeing this live is tomorrow, I will be interviewing Iyanla Van Zant, the wonderful spiritual diva, the host of Fix My Life on Oprah Winfrey Network, on the AARP Black Community page for Facebook. I'd love for you to tune in. It's at 5 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be talking about how we can uplift ourselves even more, what her journey has been like, and what her words of wisdom are for us. And so if you are listening to this in real time, it's tomorrow, January 26th, at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Facebook page for AARP Black Community. It will be a live broadcast, and it also will live there after. So you don't have to miss it if you see this broadcast at another time. Also, Dreamleapers Inspiration is now available on podcasts, where all podcasts are. So feel free to share with your friends, let them know. If they'd like some inspiration, we bring it to you right here once a week. Now in 2021, it's once a week on Mondays, and then it's available on the podcast anytime. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for spending this time engaging in the practice of focus. I hope that you benefited from our moments together. We are gathered in this way so that we can inspire each other. So until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.